Chapter 2. Gold. Sunday, July 7th, 1 p.m. Brother Timothy had to know something more than he had let on to Father Philip. John's call was therefore to the monastery. After a few rings that went unanswered, John put the phone back in its cradle. "No answer at the monastery," he said. "I've got to go up there and talk with Brother Timothy." "I'll drive there with you," said the priest. "I should go by myself," said John, and he stood up. Father Philip's face flashed a moment of anger. John was aware that Philip was very intelligent and could be short-tempered. He honestly thought he was being left out of the investigation, or worse, that John would not tell him what was going on. John said, "It's not because I don't trust you with Father Tom's affairs, Father. As a lawyer, though, I'm bound to respect the old man's privacy. I just want to see what I can find out for my client before the whole world knows of this problem. And you and I are on the hot spot for answers. You can understand that." John understood that he was an outsider to the world of these religious men. Father Philip, more than anything, was being protective of his priest community, of all the members of that fraternity. John made another footnote in his mind that if this mystery continued, he might be forced to work with other churchmen similar to Philip, people who would be more concerned about church matters than his executor's duty to the old man. He had sensed for some time that Father Sweeney had ideas different than his parish, and perhaps his executor responsibilities would be tested to the fullest extent of his talents and experience. "Timothy's a priest like me," said Father Philip abruptly. "He won't tell you anything he wouldn't tell me." John tried to compromise. He knew this might be a complicated case and felt no need to set up adversaries this early. "You may be right. Anyway, Father Sweeney's my client, dead or alive. This is the legal way to do it," said John, firmly. Then he added warmly, "If I find anything that is relevant, I can assure you I'll fill you in right away." The priest nodded. He grudgingly gave him directions to the monastery. Father Philip's tone since he had come into the office had completely changed, and he was almost unfriendly as he spoke. John took notes on the descriptions of the back roads, keeping quiet and trying to avoid any more confrontation with the excitable priest. When John was only a few feet out the door, he looked back. Father Philip had calmed down. He was standing in the office door, seeming to overcome his sense of hurt and become once again a soft-spoken preacher. He offered, "In my opinion, John, I think the money came from a secret donor who gave it to Father Tom to further the Lord's work." John nodded and said, mindful of the young priest's ego, "I'll let you know first thing if I find out some information." John traveled for almost an hour to get to the monastery, located in the midst of rural fields beyond Chestertown. He needed a fair amount of arm effort to keep his well-worn truck on course over the sidewise pull of the high-crowned roads. Father Tom had said to John that he was built like an Irishman. John didn't know if he was Irish or what he was. The old priest had told John that, "I want you for my lawyer because you, Johnny, you've got something the others don't have. You, my boy, got the will to fight." John smiled to himself as he remembered. Fortunately, Father Tom didn't know how depressed John had become over his office finances. On the other hand, the priest had been right about John's ability to handle himself in a physical fight. Growing up on a farm, he learned early to handle himself and even had extensive tutoring from one of his foster father's buddies who had been in special forces. Later, one of his college roommates had helped him refine his boxing skills until he had done ring time as a welterweight with some success in the Baltimore amateur circuit. He made a little money to help with law school bills. "Learn to handle yourself," Nothing worse than a lawyer on his knees, his roommate had said. Even now he'd go to the River Sunday gym as much as he could and keep up the heavy bag workouts. The old priest had added, "You came to River Sunday to help these small farmers. It's God's work and you won't make much money, Johnny. I know about doing God's work, and it's the work of a poor but happy man. I know you want to do this because your own family has such hard times on their farm. You told me about your father and your respect for him. You say you owe him. I think you also owe yourself to be a good man. Somehow I think of you like one of those old western town marshals, men who stood up to the big ranchers to help out the homesteaders. They never made much money, but they did the work because it was the right thing to do. That's why I have so much faith in you, Johnny."